Hello and welcome back to Trains Up North. Today I'm going to be looking at backscenes. So my previous layouts I've not actually used backscenes, however on this one, Northern Junction, I decided it's going to have a backscene, and the bits that I've done where I've got backscenes already, I really quite like them. So without further ado, this is how I do my backscenes. So the method I use, I'm not saying it's the right way or the best way, but what I am saying is it's the way that I do it. So what have I done? So this piece of plywood at the back of my board has had 3 or 4 coats of varnish. I've lightly sanded it between coats, just so that the second coat on the third coat, etc., has got something to sort of key to. And then I've drilled a small hole through the board there with my cordless drill. And what I'm going to do is, at the moment you can see it's loose, so I'm going to attach that to the wall, and then when it's on the wall I'll then put my backscene on it. So I've just moved the board out of the way, so if I zoom in you can see the mark on the wall from the cordless drill. So to drill through the wall, I live in a house that's got solid stone walls, so I'm not going to try and drill the stone with my cordless drill. What I'm going to do is use a heavy duty drill, and it's a hammer drill. Yeah, I did cock that up a little bit, didn't I? But never mind. What I will say, when you're drilling into walls, I'm not too bad here because I know it's a solid stone wall, so I know there's nothing behind it. However, if you're drilling into like plasterboard or something like that, just make sure that there's no water, gas, electric behind it. The last thing you want to do is drill through a water pipe or something like that, because it's going to get expensive. Also, if you drill through a water pipe or something like that, it's going to delay your modelling, because you're going to have to deal with that. So I've just put a roll plug in. It's just a basic 8mm one. And then into that I'm going to put my screw in, but it's going to go through the board. So what I need to do is move the board back, drill a hole in the other end. The other thing you need to remember when you're drilling is make sure that you've got the appropriate drill bit in your drill. So I'm drilling through stone, so I've got a mason bit in my drill. So I've got my screw in now. What I need to do is just line it up with the hole, which is somewhere there. And that noise you heard then is just the clutch in the drill. Now that's the board for the back scene done. When we're putting screws in, there's 2 things that I'd recommend. The first one is that you make use of your torque functions in your drill. So they're the numbers that you see on the top of your drill. Most drills have these. If you turn it down to 1 and you just hold it you'll see that without much pressure on the chuck, it doesn't move and it makes a noise. As you turn it up, you need to apply more pressure before it does it. I'm not going to explain how it works because I'll probably make a hash of it, but I'll tell you what it does. So the low numbers, it has a clutch inside here, and what happens is when it feels resistance, the clutch slips. When you've got a high number, then it takes a lot more resistance before that clutch will move and slip. You turn it right up to drill, then it's not going to slip at all. And then the other function on this drill is the hammer function, which is for if you're drilling masonry. So what happens if we have the torque setting too high? Well, you'll get one of two things. You can either bury the screw head below the surface of whatever you're screwing it into, which can be useful if you want to put the screw head flush with whatever you're screwing, so baseboards for example. The other way of doing it obviously is countersinking, but sometimes as modelers we are lazy. The other thing that could happen is, rather than the clutch slipping on the drill, your screwdriver bit slips on your screw head. That is something that we really want to avoid, because if that slips on the screw head, it can actually strip the metal out on the screw head, and then you won't be able to screw it in or remove it without a little bit of difficulty. The second thing I'd say when you're using screws is get a decent screwdriver bit. This one's quite worn now, but it's a DeWalt one. Previously I've used cheap ones like that, and hopefully the camera's picking that up. We'll zoom in a bit and try again. You see that? It sheared off. So that was when I was building the baseboards. I'm trying to put a screw in and the screw bit just sheared. It wasn't a nice experience because I had the other half of that coming towards me. So I had that happen twice with two different ones, and yeah, previously I bought cheap rubbish, but I won't do that anymore. So now I go for the DeWalt ones. I've never had issues with the DeWalt ones, and I'm a fan of DeWalt. The drills are DeWalt. It's an amazing drill. It's not cheap, but battery holds charge. It charges pretty quick, and you can get different batteries for it. So yeah, brilliant. I wouldn't use a cordless drill like that for drilling masonry. If you're drilling masonry, if you can, get a proper big hammer drill. You've seen how easy it went through the stone. That sometimes struggles going through things like that, so yeah, I wouldn't use it. So now we've got all the boards screwed in place for the back scene. So what I'm going to do is open up this parcel, which has got our back scene in it. So the back scenes I'm using on Northern Junction are these from ID Backscenes. I have tried others, but these just work for me. And the great thing about them is they will modify them if you want. So there's two in this pack, and the hills on this one, they start off, so the hills on this pack start off quite low on the right hand side, and they rise up to the left and continue on to the second sheet. I've gone for the premium paper, so it's self-adhesive on the back, which just makes installing it a little bit easier. So without further ado, let's attach them. So we now have the back scene in place. I'm just going to pan round so you can see it, and I quite like it. I think it suits the layout quite well. It certainly does give that appearance of like the Pennines or something like that. Perhaps when you look at places like that, there's a few too many trees for the moors in the area that this layout sort of is meant to represent, but I don't think it's too bad. I don't think you're going to notice that. When I have put the back scene in, there is a gap there between the raised section and the back scene, and I've done that intentionally. The reason why I've done that will become clear as we continue the layout build. The wires that you can see that are loose from the track, they're going to be tucked in and holes drilled through the baseboards, and they're all going to be hidden away underneath. I am going to have sort of the main station here, so some of that is going to be hidden by the main station. Have I got this back scene perfect? No, I haven't, but for me it's good enough. So things that I've not got quite right, if you look there, you can just about see the join in the two sections, and up there I've made a bit of hash of it. So you can see there where I've made a bit of a hash of it and it's coming away. What I'll do is I'll put some glue in and I'll just stick that back down. It's one of them things that I've messed up. I might redo it in the future. These boards are permanently attached. Some people have removable back scenes. I'll try and find some videos of other YouTubers and how they do it, and I'll put the link in the description. Yeah, I think that sort of sums it up. What I'm going to do here is, once I put the next one on, which will be there, I'll hide it. So the great thing about these ID back scenes is, I think this is pack A, and they do packs B and C and I think D. So you can do quite a long area. So yeah, what I'm going to do is when I get the next pack and I join it up, I'll put a building there or something like that, just a house or something like that, or something, I don't know, a signal box maybe. What do you think? Would a signal box be okay there? Because you've got a junction there, passing loop is going to be here with signals and things, so potentially, I don't know. Like I said, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Unfortunately I wasn't able to film putting the back scene on, but what I've got is an offcut here which I've used elsewhere on the layout, and I'm going to show you how I put this onto the board. And I'm just going to use this offcut of 9mm plywood. So as I've said, It's the premium backscene from ID Backscenes. The premium range is slightly more expensive than the standard range, as you'd expect. The standard ones are printed on 180 GSM paper, so it's quite heavy duty. But it does say on the website that you need to stop them getting too wet. This premium range is a little bit more durable. It says it's waterproof, resistant to tearing and scratching, and printed on polypropylene. So you can use them in damp and humid climates. It also comes with self-adhesive backing. Now if you don't want to use that, you can use other glues on the back. So ID Backscenes recommend, if you're going to glue the back of this, using a solvent based glue. And it also says if you're going to use the self-adhesive on chipboard or MDF and things like that, then you need to paint them first, which is why you'll have seen on my boards at the back of the layout I've actually used varnish, and I've varnished them prior to putting it on. I find that varnish works really well. So it does come on the edges with a white band, and you'll get that at the end of each section. So each section is 1.5 metres long. You get 2 of them in a pack, so 3 metres, and I think they're about 20 quid. So 20 quid for 3 metres of layout isn't bad. Unfortunately I've got a large layout, so I do need several of these. So to do the edges and get rid of this white strip, if you get a piece of wood or a piece of aluminium, steel, anything like that, anything that's got a straight edge basically, and get a knife. So I'm using a scalpel here. Now this is an old scalpel blade, and I'm going to do it on the front actually because you'll be able to see that better. Would I normally use an old scalpel blade? No, I wouldn't, and I'm going to try. Hopefully this will work and it'll show you why you want a new blade. No, it hasn't. So that's cut cleanly, but sometimes with an old blade what can happen is, rather than cutting it like that, it sort of tears it. And I'll demonstrate what I mean now. So if you can see there, it's just torn the paper rather than cutting it, which isn't ideal on your layout. Like I say, ID Backscenes will customise these for you. So this grass bit, if you contact them, they may charge for this. I don't know because I've never done it, but I know they do it. They can bring those houses closer and get rid of some of this grass for you, which will give you more sky. Or they can move the houses back, giving you a little bit more grass. They do these backscenes for 00, HO and N-gauge. So that's the major scales covered. I don't know whether they've got anything planned for like the TT gauges or scales, like the TT 120s. What I'll do is, before I publish this, I'll email them, and if I get a reply before this goes live, I'll put the comment at the bottom. So if there's no comment, it means I haven't heard back from them. Right, like I said, normally what we do is varnish or paint this board first, but it's a bit of an offcut of plywood and a bit of an offcut of Backscene. So we just peel away the edge like that, and as you can see the film comes away. And what I do, because the 1.5 metres, if you take it all off at once you're going to struggle. So I normally trim the edges, peel a little bit off, and then I just line the edge up with the edge of your board, get it to the right height, get it to where you want, and then you just smooth it out. And I ain't got that quite right, so you can just lift it off. You can normally lift it off a couple of times before the adhesive starts going. Obviously I'm not getting the full effects of the adhesive with it being unpainted. And then what I do is, as I'm laying it, I just smooth it out like that, and as I'm doing it I just slowly pull the backing away, and I just do that until I've gone round full 1.5 metres or however long I'm doing it, and then yeah, done. So yeah, that's a wonky line. I didn't use a straight edge to cut it because what I did is I knew I didn't need that, so I loosely cut it, and I left myself a couple of inches extra on the bit I was going to use, just because I didn't want to cut it and then find out I'd cut it like 1/4 of an inch too short. So I thought, well, give myself a couple of extra inches, and then once it's in I can just use the edge of the board and basically just run down it like that with a blade. And that bit that I showed you a minute ago where I sort of cocked it up and it ripped, that's because I did it with the Stanley blade. What I normally do, if I'm trimming it along the edges of a board when it's in, is I'll use a razor blade like that, and I'll pull this off. See, it's not stuck properly because it's not painted. So we'll just put that on like that, and as you can see now we've got an edge that's sticking over. So what I'll do with this is get my razor blade and I'll just run the razor blade. There's a bit of an imperfection on the plywood there, which the blade just caught, and I'll just run the blade down like that, and now you can see that's quite a nice straight edge. So there's another couple of tools that you might find useful when you're doing back scenes. One of them is a wallpaper roller, and you can just use that just to flatten the edges. Sometimes when you're doing these, if you've had to reposition it a few times, it doesn't stick too well. So if it's not sticking too well and I find that I've got a bit that's lifting like that in the corner, what I use is this View Glue Backscene adhesive from Deluxe Materials, and I'll just get a small brush and I'll just go in and I'll put a little bit of this on the edge, like so, and then a little bit of on the edge there. Then making sure I don't use my hand that I've just got glue on, I'll just smooth it down. He says getting glue on the back seam. Well, it's not a big issue, I've just got a damp finger there. And I'll just smooth it off and give it a wipe with a damp finger. Because they're water resistant, you can get away with that a little bit. If you start rubbing it like that, you will damage it. But if you're just nice and gentle, you're okay. Now it says they're tear resistant. We'll pull this off. We'll give it a tear test. So, yeah, you can see there, that's not going anywhere. That's pretty good. I did look at the Pico ones and they just didn't have that realism that I wanted when I looked at them. Yes, they are cheap, but if they're not what you want, it's pointless. So yeah, I tried the Gauge Master ones. This is the GM757, and it would have done what I wanted, and it was sort of like, yeah, that's sort of what I'm after. And I tried using it. This is a little bit creased because it's been sort of in my storage, and it's managed to get a little bit of a rip and a bit of a crease. But let's show you how I got on with these. Like I said, I didn't rate it. I'm sure there are others out there that use Gauge Master ones and they quite like them. What I'm going to do is just switch to a bigger brush, and I'm using the Deluxe Materials Backscene glue here. So what you do with that is paste it on. It goes on a lot quicker and easier with a bigger brush. And you have to be fairly quick with this stuff. And we're going to slap it on. And we paste the backboard like that. And then I'm going to paste the back of our paper. So it doesn't need to be a really thick coat of glue. Thin coat works just as well. And this glue from Deluxe Materials, it's water based as well, so it's dead easy to clean. And then what you do is just pop it on like that. Obviously you'd line it up with where you want it, and again you can see there I've just roughly cut it. Like I said, this is an offcut, so I'm not too bothered. So if you get the glue on your hands, just make sure you have a damp cloth, and then you can wipe it off. And we'll just smooth it out. And again, a wallpaper roller would be good in this situation. I don't have one to hand. I do have one, I just haven't got it to hand. And as you can see now, I'll hold the board steady. We can actually manipulate that a little bit because both surfaces are wet. So I'm happy with where it is. It cuts easy enough. What I have found with this, with it being paper, is, I don't know if you just saw that there, I just caught it with, and it's literally blue roll that I'm using just to smooth out any air bubbles things, but it's dead thin. When we did the tear test on the other one, do it on this, it rips really easy. I'm not a fan of it. I've just put a bit of moisture on that. It does wipe, obviously. It's actually held up quite well. I mean, that was me. Let's do that again. So we'll moisten this blue roll. I'll give it quite a rub, and it's held up quite well to that, but it does scratch really easy. So I'll zoom in, you'll see that scratch there. You catch it with your nail, things like that. It does mark really easy. Right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to nip upstairs out of the cellar, wash the glue off my brushes, and I'll come back once this has dried. So this is now dry and it's stuck quite well. There is a couple of minor and now very minor ripples in it. When it was wet, it did have a lot of bubbles. So if you do this method and you find that it's got a lot of bubbles, don't play with it. Don't try and pop them or do anything like that, because as it dries, they disappear. And I'm probably going to guess that these ripples will disappear even more if I leave it a little bit longer. But yeah, you can see it's stuck now. I'm not going to be able to get that off. I'd like to once again thank all those people that have subscribed. If you haven't done already, you know where the button is. Hit it, subscribe, you won't miss any of these videos. Don't forget, it's free to subscribe, so it's not one of these paid subscription services I'm asking you to sign up to. There's some links below to my Amazon affiliate page. So they're products that I've used and I like. Feel free to use them and see what you think. Yes, I do earn commission on some of the products, but it doesn't cost you any extra. As ever, I like to read your comments, especially when they're constructive. I do get some comments on there that are just nasty for the sake of being nasty. They get removed, so you're just wasting your time by putting them on. Hit the like button. There should be another video on screen now to some of my other videos that I've done, which you might be interested in. And until next time, goodbye.